What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I have been living with the Model Y for the past 48 hours, and I want to talk about it. So I spent the last 2 days driving all over the place, city streets, highways, back roads, you name it, shooting all kinds of video on this new Model Y. I've compared it directly to the last generation Model Y. I'll have that video up shortly after this one if it's not up already. I'll have it linked down below. And I did a little ASMR test between the last generation and the new generation Model Y, so you could really see the build quality differences here in the updated 2026 model. But I just wanted to kind of give my final thoughts, a little bit of a summary, and talk about what my experience was like so far. Now, this one is a little bit different than the one that I filmed on. This is a long-range all-wheel drive. The last one I demoed was a long-range rear-wheel drive, so I can kind of talk about the differences there. This one does have the white interior with the lighter gray textile fabric, whereas the other one had the black interior. So just a couple differences there. This one is Quicksilver. And I'm gonna walk around this thing and show you guys what is new on the Model Y. If you're unfamiliar, if you guys already know everything there is to know about the refreshed Model Y, you can skip to this timestamp here where I give my final thoughts and answer some of your all's questions. All right, so this is the updated 2026 Tesla Model Y. This is a long-range all-wheel drive model. Got a couple things on here you could change as options, but I'm gonna talk about this as quickly as I can because I think most people have already seen the updated Model Y. But one of the big standout features is this LED light bar that runs across the front. Your turn signals are actually going to be in this little slit right here, and then your high beams and your main beams are all going to be down here. You've got a little air pass through right there. You do have a front-facing camera now with a washer. That's one of the new things. This is the second Tesla to get the front-facing camera after the Cybertruck, and now the Model 3 is the only one that doesn't have it now that the S and X have been refreshed. Well, one thing you're definitely going to notice with the redesign here is how angular everything is now. It's less kind of rounded off, and you can see that very easily here on the frunk. Not a powered frunk, but we can go ahead and lift that up and get access down here. You can see that we now have a little drain plug here, so you can use this really easily as a cooler now, fill it full of ice, put some drinks in here on a hot day. And they relocated the tow hook and the light up here as well. Speaking of repositioning, you now have your wiper fluid you can put right here, whereas it used to be up there. But you can see just how angular that frunk frame is. If we come around to the side, it's sitting on 19-inch cross flow wheels, but you can upgrade to 20-inch Helix 2.0 wheels if you want to. You'll lose a little range though. This is a hardware 4 vehicle, so you're gonna have the cameras here, cameras up there, obviously that front camera potentially in the future, and then the back camera as well. A little bit of a redesign on the side mirrors here with this little extra aerodynamic bit. Everything else is pretty much the same, like side profile wise, but you did get an upgrade to the roof here. So you have a silver coating on there now that is going to give you 7 times more heat repellent than it did before. Now we've got our charge port here. You still get 250 kilowatt DC fast charging on the NACS port. You have a redesign on the taillight to make it more like the Model 3. And then this whole indirect light bar here in the back. Look at that. So we've got the same plastic kind of textured bit that we have on the inside, and this LED light shines down from above onto the back of it, giving it a really cool effect, especially at night. But the sheet metal's a little different. You can see it's a little bit more squared off. Like I said, you get a little bit more plastic cladding up at the bottom just to help with repairability in the case of an accident. And then the rear glass here is a little bit more sharp of a cutoff here. If we lift up the tailgate here, you do have a backup camera. And then you can see here, we've got the same 30 cubic feet of cargo space with the second row seats up. If we fold those down at 72 cubic feet, the big kind of selling feature here is we now have these powered seats here, both up and down. And you can kind of notice that when you put them up and down, the seats kind of go forward a little bit to make it easier, and so you don't have any weird blockage when the seats try and go down. Additionally, you can drop this centerpiece just like that. So that's really helpful for a pass-through. You've got the underfloor storage still, and then you do have a specific spot where you can store the cargo shade underneath, which you did not have before. Plus you get a little bit more carpet under here, which is good. And then outside of like door panel materials being improved, which I've talked a lot about in the past, soft touch all the way down, which is really great. They added the same kind of flaps from the Model 3. You get the same 8-inch display from the Model 3, which allows you to control ventilation, games, YouTube, music. You can even fold the seats down which is really nice. You can do it all from that display, and you can scoot the front seat forward and backwards if you want to. And like I said, improved door panel materials in the front. You got your LED lighting that runs all the way over there, and it also, they got rid of the little silver strip that ran across on Model 3s. So it doesn't reflect in the windshield as much, which I really appreciate. But all these door panel materials are really high-end. Soft touch here, soft touch leather here, soft touch leather here with double stitching. You get a little textile fabric here with the speaker grill, and an updated fabric here that is a little bit lighter than it is on the black interior version. But that same double stitching, and you have that little textured plastic above the vents like we have on the light bar in the back. This redesigned steering wheel here, it's the kind of lower profile steering wheel with the Tesla badge in the center. You've got your controls over here, a little bit different than the Model 3 because they included the turn signal stalk still. So enough people still wanted that they left it on there. But some controls here for wipers and lights. And then over here, you've got your buttons for your camera. And like I said, you do have that front-facing camera now that it includes this washer here. So you can spray that really easily. Then you've got your standard rear camera as well. The only other real different thing in here, outside of like the updated graphics here for the new Model Y here, is you have this swing mode here that will just pivot your vent back and forth. But I don't know if that's a hardware or software thing, but it's only available on the Model Y right now. Charge port area, got double stitching and this little accent trim. And then the whole center console is basically just what we had on the Model 3 refresh. So a little textured plastic bit, and then it glides back nice and easily, and you can cover up your cup holders here. Center armrest, soft touch, double stitching with a magnet, and you do have that magnetic glove box now with that nice solid snap. And then the seats did get updated as well. These are the new generation seats. They are heated and ventilated now, power adjustable with lumbar for just the driver, heated and ventilated for passenger and driver, and then heated for rear seat passengers. All right, so what's my experience been like with the Model Y? Well, really, really good. I loved my Model 3. I had it for over a year. I still love the Model 3. It's probably still my favorite of all of the Tesla models. I sold my Model 3 about a month and a half ago, and I've been daily driving the Cybertruck, and man, I cannot tell you how nice it is. Not that I don't love the Cybertruck, and not that I'm not appreciative of being able to drive the Cybertruck, but hopping into a smaller car again, just it gives me peace. I really prefer driving smaller cars. I'm not a truck person. So being here in the Model Y, especially this updated Model Y, has been really, really nice. And like I said, I did shoot a comparison between the last generation Model Y and then this generation. And man, oh man, did they make improvements. It's kind of hard to tell if you go from something like I did, where I went from a Model 3 refresh and Cybertruck into the new Model Y to kind of really understand the differences. I'm really glad that I drove the 2024 and 2025 version of the Model Y and then came over to this one, because it is like night and day in my opinion. Not only does it have vastly improved door panel materials, cabin materials up along the dash, it's all much more premium, well put together. You've got your ambient lighting here that we can turn on. So you've got that ambient light strip. It runs across the dash. Obviously, like I said, the door panel materials are updated. You've got some white leather here. On the black interior, you're gonna have the Alcantara, which is really nice. I would like if they gave you a white Alcantara. I think that'd be really cool. You've got the double stitching on the armrest with the leatherette, and you just have that soft touch material that goes all the way down. Whereas on the previous version, it was all black plastic all the way down. Super rough, scratch it really easily. This soft touch, I had it on my Model 3 and it's so nice and so easy to clean. But that same kind of theme with the higher end materials runs throughout the cabin. You've got double glazing on the rear windows, which helps with sound isolation. You've got a 7 times more sun repellent roof material here. It's like a silver coating that they put on it, and you can really tell that it lets in less heat. This leather wrapped heated steering wheel has changed, and it's just, you know, not changed if you're familiar with the refresh Model 3, changed from the old Model Y. It's the kind of more skinny steering wheel design with the Tesla word mark across the front. You've got buttons now instead of just the scroll wheels, but it's a little bit different than the Model 3. They actually kept the turn signal stock. I know a lot of people like that. Personally, I prefer the buttons, but that's totally personal preference. Enough people clearly preferred the stock, so they brought it back. And then, of course, you have your front camera. So inside of your camera menu, you can swipe between the front and rear camera. Those are the main changes here. I've always thought that the seats were more comfortable on the previous generation Teslas, Model 3 and Model Y, but my uncle, who actually owns the 2024 Model Y Performance that I used for the other video that you guys will see soon, or maybe it's already live, he has white seats on his. He sat in the seats on the other one, and he he was like, oh my gosh, these are so much better. And I'm always like, I always felt like the other ones were more comfortable. You like these ones better? And he's like, yeah, dude, these are so nice. He's like, they're so much more bolstered. They like hold you in more. The ventilation, obviously, having heated and ventilated options here on the Model Y now, huge improvement. For me, that's my favorite thing. I couldn't go back to not having ventilated seats, as much of a first world thing as that sounds. Couldn't do it. And luckily this Model Y has it. So these seats, super comfy, maybe even a little bit more plush than I remember. I think honestly though, with the redesigned seats, I think I like the black interior better than the white interior, but maybe just personal preference there. So the few things that I really noticed on the new Model Y are the improved suspension. It is so smooth. Doesn't matter if you're on the all-wheel drive or the rear-wheel drive, it is butter. And I noticed that the very first time I actually drove the Model Y, they made such a significant improvement, especially from the last gen. Obviously the Model 3 has a nice suspension too, but here with having a larger vehicle, kind of a mid-size SUV feel, it's a little bit taller and you ride a little higher, so you want that suspension to be nice and comfortable, and it is so nice here on the new Model Y. Huge props to Tesla on that. Turn my ventilated seat off so you guys could even hear it a little more. I cannot stress enough how nice and quiet this cabin is, especially compared to the last generation version. We don't have a lot of stuff going on outside, unfortunately, but when you shut that door and that window goes up, it is like it vacuum seals this cabin, and it's so much quieter. Where when I got into the last generation Model Y, it sounded like I was talking in a bathroom. It was so echoey, and I was just sitting in the normal cabin, and I'm so used to the current generation Teslas, I wasn't ready for how echoey the cabin was and how much road noise came in. But then I got back into this cabin and I was like, man, they knocked it out of the park. Those door panel materials are obviously going to make a huge difference. You got the nice carpet, the soft touch, all that is going to seal up everything a little bit tighter. Like I said, the back windows have gotten thicker, and so they've improved that a little bit to isolate the noise from the back. That improved suspension is going to help. Obviously, this has the smaller wheels, so that's going to help a little bit versus a Performance, which has larger wheels. But nonetheless, it is so much quieter in here. It sounds like you're talking inside of a closet in here, and I mean that in the best way possible. It's muffled, it's quiet. You can't hear any of the outside, you just hear what's going on the inside, which is all you can really ask for. And honestly, it's super, super quick. I haven't driven this all-wheel drive one as much, but I did spend the 2 days with the rear-wheel drive, and it was plenty quick. And I'm someone that drives the Cybertruck every single day, which has a 2.60 to 60 unbelievably fast truck. But there's something about the smaller size vehicle still having pretty decent acceleration, even with the rear-wheel drive only variant. 5.4 seconds 0 to 60. I think this one has 4.6 0 to 60 without the acceleration boost. It's no question faster than most gas cars you're gonna buy, but even in the EV space, it's pretty quick and really impressive. Like, you don't feel like you're having trouble passing or zipping around city streets, anything like that. I posted it on my community tab and let you know that I was gonna have the Model Y for 48 hours and asked if you guys had any questions about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and answer some of those questions that you guys asked me about. I will sum up some of these because there's a couple that are the same. I had several people asking about seating comfort and if I prefer these seats versus the old seats. Let me say this about the seating surfaces. I think the last gen ones are a little bit cushier, kind of like a puffy recliner. These ones are a little bit more bolstered and a little bit firmer, but having that ventilation makes all the difference to me. And I don't want it to sound like these seats are uncomfortable, because they're not at all. And like I said earlier, my uncle, who daily drives a 2024 Model Y, got in these seats and said, oh, these are way better. So don't take my word for it. I don't daily drive a Model Y. Take his. Daryl says, I'm curious to know what you think about having a bit more space compared to the Model 3. It seems a bit easier to live with as a practical car with similar performance. The performance thing, I would argue a little bit. Now, if you go rear-wheel drive with the Model 3 and the Model Y, like my Model 3 had a 5.8 second 0 to 60. The one I drove for the past 48 hours had a 5.4 0 to 60. So that's basically a toss-up, right? You're not going to notice too much of a difference there. So yeah, similar performance there. But once you start getting into the all-wheel drive models or the performance models, we don't have a performance Model Y yet, but we expect that it'll be coming. The Model 3 starts to kind of take hold of the performance, and that makes sense. It's a lighter car, it's a smaller car, that makes sense. But you can still get some great performance out of this. I mean, this all-wheel drive here gets like 327 miles of range. The rear-wheel drive gets 357 miles of range, and you still got a 5.4 0 to 60 or a 4.6 0 to 60. That's plenty of performance for most people, especially people that want like more of a family type car. And I will 100% agree with you. The practicality of the Model Y is excellent. I've gotten away with having a Model 3 for over a year, doing all my video work with it, groceries. I fit like 30 mulch bags in it one time. Like, it is plenty practical. The Model 3 is great. The only thing I wish the Model 3 had would be a hatchback trunk instead of like a saloon style trunk, but I know that that would kind of cannibalize into Model Y sales, and they don't do it for that reason, or Model S sales, depending on if you wanted the sedan with the hatchback. But both vehicles are plenty practical, but you definitely get that additional passenger volume, a little bit more room in the back seats. You get the larger trunk with the hatchback style. I would probably say the Model Y is the more practical car, but I don't want to take away from the Model 3 because I think it is one of the most practical family sedans that you can buy. Doug says, I like the reduced regeneration setting. Interested to hear your thoughts. So I did drive in both the standard deceleration mode and the reduced deceleration mode. Personal preference, I prefer more regen. In fact, I had a 2022 Chevy Bolt that had one pedal driving and a little regen on demand paddle on the back of the steering wheel, and I love that thing. That's how I would drive. I would just use my acceleration pedal, ease off of it, feather it, and then grab the regen on demand paddle if I needed a little bit extra braking, if you will. So I'm probably not the right person to answer this because I prefer a lot of regen versus not a lot of regen. But if you're coming from a standard combustion engine vehicle or another EV that you could turn off one pedal driving mode, having the reduced deceleration mode, it's really, really nice. I think it'll help bridge that gap between traditional vehicle owners that want to move over to an EV here with the Model Y. I think it'll help. So, while it's not my preference, it did work pretty well. Like, it made it feel a little bit like you could roll a little bit, which I think a lot of people are going to appreciate because it feels more normal to them. Falcor says, test and see if you can turn the rear light bar on during the day. I read the only way to do it is to turn the headlights on. So if you go into controls, you can turn on parking. And when you turn on parking, it will turn on the rear light bar. I haven't specifically seen a way to do it inside of the settings, like where you can just turn on the rear light bar, but that kind of gives me an idea. I think Enhance Auto could add this to the Model Y through the Sexy app, the Sexy Commander. TC Ellis says, any major differences you see from the Model 3? Picking up my Model Y demo on July 11th. Looking forward to trying it out. Big things I noticed from the Model 3, I think mainly, obviously the ride height, significant difference. I think you notice it. I actually sat back in a Model 3 today, and you could definitely tell you're lower to the ground. Easier to get in and out of, for sure. I'm only 31 years old, but my knees have been bad for years, so it is a little tough to get in and out of the Model 3, whereas it's not as much here on the Model Y. Outside of that, and like design differences, the cabin feels very, very similar, right? Same seats, basically the same steering wheel. The only real difference is that turn signal stalk, which I still press the windshield wiper button 1,000 times in my demo drive, thinking that it was the turn signal. So my personal preference, don't like the turn signal stalk. I would get rid of it. But other than that, everything else basically feels the same. Even having that front-facing camera, I think it's great. They say it's only used for Smart Summon right now, and the auto parking system. I think eventually we know it's going to be used for full self-driving, and so I hope that there's a retrofit option for the Model 3 down the line, or if they do a mid-cycle refresh of it. But I don't really notice it as much, like using it day in and day out. But that even applies to something like the Cybertruck, which has had the front-facing camera the whole time. I think it's great. It's nice to have, but like it's not like a game changer for me, really. And then finally, I got 3 questions from Fluffy Goat 91515. One, how is seat comfort compared to the legacy Model Y? I've kind of covered this a little bit already. I'll take these seats even if they're slightly less cushy than the other ones, just because of the bolstered design and the ventilation. How does the front bumper camera affect the FSD visualization? Not at all. I think Tesla's even said specifically they're not using it yet for FSD visualization, so I haven't noticed any significant differences at all. And how much quieter is the car compared to the legacy Model Y? Significantly. That's the best way I can say it. It is a noticeable difference. Like I said, vacuum seal when you get in here. It's dead quiet. The legacy Model Y rattles a little bit more. It's a little bit louder, more road noise, more echoey inside the cabin. This is far, far superior. And that kind of brings me to my conclusion here. I don't know what people are waiting on. If you're on the fence about getting a Model Y, get off the fence, go demo drive one like I'm doing right now, and then go ahead and place your order. If you're a legacy Model Y owner, even up until 2024, 2025, the 2026, in my opinion, is so vastly superior to that, I think it's a no-brainer. The only thing I can see, the only qualification, is if you want performance, and there is not yet a performance. I get that, but we know it's coming, right? Even the people at Tesla today told me, they're like, we already know it's coming, we just don't know when. So if you're waiting on the performance version of the Model Y, hold tight. I would guess by the end of the year, guaranteed, maybe even in the next couple months, we'll have one. And as soon as I'm able to get my hands on one, I'll test drive one for you guys and bring you a review of it. But if you're just looking for the best value electric SUV on the market, the Model Y is a no-brainer, guys. It really is. I mean, you're talking $41,000 for the long-range all-wheel drive after the tax credit, $37,000 for the rear-wheel drive. This is an absolute no-brainer if you want an SUV. And I would take advantage because that tax credit I think is going to go away at the end of the year, most likely. Unless you just absolutely hate Tesla and do not want to drive one, I would never recommend another electric SUV over the Model Y. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like. If you have any more questions about the Model Y, let me know down in the comments. I can go pick up another one of these for a demo drive anytime and answer more of y'all's questions. So leave them down in the comments. And of course, if you want to see all of my Model Y videos that I've got coming, don't forget to hit subscribe. And if you just love Tesla content, hit subscribe because I'll be bringing plenty more of it to the channel very soon. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.